Now that we have most of you guys coming from the top start video, let's get into the sits that we need to be making this week. If you haven't already, hit that like button and sub to the channel. I would greatly appreciate it. But the first group of people that we need to be sitting is the Houston Texans backfield. Dameon Pierce is out, so Royce Freeman and Dare Ongubawale will be getting touches in this backfield, and it is just not a good matchup for them. I know the Texans have been pretty decent as of late, but they are facing the Titans, which have a pretty decent run defense. At the end of the day, this is the fantasy football playoff, so we do not need to be risking our lineups for these guys. Somebody else that we can't be risking our lineups for, that we do have to pump the brakes on just a little bit, is Latavius Murray. Yes, he did have a very good game last week, seeing 130 rushing yards and a rushing touchdown, but guys, it is still the Denver Broncos. Besides this game, he has only had one other game that you could deem as fantasy startable, where he scored 13 fantasy points in week 8 against the Jaguars. And yes, you could also argue that the LA Rams defense hasn't been that good without Aaron Donald. They do allow 20 fantasy points a game to opposing running backs, which ranks around the neutral area. The Denver Broncos offense lacks any sort of consistency. It looks like they are leaning more towards the run game with Russell Wilson sitting out, but Latavius Murray is not a guy that we want to be starting this week. He is very much a boom or bust player. He has one of the highest boom or bust percentages this week. If you guys do want to go check out more information and see which players have the highest boom or bust rates, or just any start and sit decisions you guys need to make, go ahead and check out the Walter Picks app. If you use code Avery inside the app, you will get unlimited uses on all of these tools for free, so you can make sure you're making the right decisions for the fantasy football playoffs. But on to our next player that we need to be sitting this week. A bit of a similar situation to the Houston backs. I wouldn't start any of the Colts running backs this week, Zach Moss and Deion Jackson. Just too early to be trusting these guys in our fantasy lineups. We still don't know who's going to be the starting running back. It is a pretty decent matchup, though. The Chargers do allow the 5th most points to opposing running backs. This is just not a week to be taking the risk on these backs, because we still don't know who's going to get the majority of the work. Last week it looked like Zach Moss, but we've seen what Deion Jackson can do earlier in the season when JT did miss time. So I would probably stay away from this backfield as a whole. Another guy I would lean towards sitting is Hollywood Brown. The Cardinals are onto their 3rd string backup quarterback in Trace McSorley, and I don't expect him to be able to support D-Hop and Marquise Brown. He had 4 catches for 19 yards, and this entire offense is just not moving down the field. Most teams, when they are on their 2nd or 3rd string quarterback, don't run the offense how they usually would like to, which means there's going to be a lot of checkdowns and short passes. And that's why last week we saw the entire Cardinals offense has averaged less than 5 yards a catch with Trace McSorley. If they're not having those big shots down the field and they're not going to be on the field as much, I would probably lean away from Marquise Brown. Even D-Hop is a bit more of a risky play, but he's probably going to see his targets. Marquise Brown is the more risky option here. I'm also looking to sit Treylon Burks this week. I know before he did miss time, he was having a little bit of a breakout, averaging 7 targets a game and over 60 yards. But surprisingly, the Texans allow the 5th least points to opposing wide receivers, which is pretty good. And in this matchup against the Titans and in this matchup against the Texans, they are not going to be passing the ball a lot. The Texans are an absolute run funnel because of how bad their defense is. They're going to be running the ball a lot with Derrick Henry, especially if Malik Willis is starting. There's going to be absolutely no offensive weapons down the field for him. So he is a definite sit this week if he does end up playing. With that being said, I do appreciate you guys watching this video, and I will be back with more videos after we see what happens this week in week 16. So I'll see you guys in the next video.